Even with my glasses.
I like to actually see it.
Exactly. And it makes it can really, really embarrassing.
You can take notes.
Yes.
All right, so we are 7 o'clock on the dot. We're going to get started here. We are streaming on YouTube Live, so this is going to be recorded and available on YouTube. So if anybody wants more information on this, they can definitely go to YouTube. And those of you on YouTube Live, we are taking questions, so feel free to use the chat. And we have a moderator here that's going to read me the questions at the end when we go into the question period. For those of you who don't know me, I think I know pretty much everybody in the room. I'm Tim Smith. I'm President and General Manager of Waterville Valley Resort. And what we're here today to do is review and present the draft EIS. So the draft environmental impact statement. This is a big accomplishment for us in our quest to connect the valley and the mountain. The goal here today is to help you understand where the project is in the federal process, what the document means, and how to participate in this public process. Uh-oh. Okay, so the draft EIS is not a decision. This is not a yes or no decision. It's a document. That discloses the analysis, compares the alternatives, identifies effects and mitigations, and opens the formal comment process. The decision comes later in the process, after comments, and the final EIS. This is the point in the process where informed public comments matter. This is really where it really comes together and matters. So studying these documents and understanding these documents is really crucial at this point. Tonight we're going to break it down into 5 parts. How we got here, what is being proposed, what the draft EIS means, alternative and resource issues, and how to comment. The goal is to gain understanding. I'm trying not to overwhelm everyone with technical details. If you're really into it, there is thousands, literally thousands of pages of research you can read. So you can dive right in as deep as you want. The draft EIS is the place to start though, so I would start by reading that and then diving into the subject matter that you're interested in. Waterville Valley is unusual. The town, the resort, the homeowners, the businesses, the trails, and the national forests are all closely connected. That makes this project more than just a resort improvement, but it's a valley-wide public process. It's also unique. That's not the typical town and resort layout. The town is surrounded. We're an island in the middle of the White Mountain National Forest. The resort operates under a special use permit with the Forest Service. That means changes this means changes on or connected to National Forest System land require federal review and public involvement. So let's talk a little bit about how we got here. So I came to the resort in 2014, June of 2014. Right away, we got started on evaluating how to make this process happen. The first thing that we needed to do was create a master development plan. So the master development plan we started in 2015, we concluded in 2019. It went through review in 2019 and was accepted by the National Forest in 2020. So that's our full development plan for the foreseeable future. That is all of Green Peak. That is some water retention areas. That is kind of a list of things that we thought is accomplishable and necessary and needed for the community. Then in 2023, from 2020 until 2023, we came up with a project proposal that we felt met the need to extend the SUP. So that's the special use permit. So we have a boundary. And we wanted to make sure that we could extend that out into this area that we want to develop into. So we needed to have a project that was significant enough to do that, but also a project that we thought we could accomplish. So after 3 years of working on that, in November of 2023, the application for this project plan was accepted. In March of 2024, it was determined by the forest that the EIS would be required for it. In May of 2025, the notice of intent, if you recall last year, we had a notice of intent went out and scoping started. So that's really where the science starts happening. So you read the project proposal. We did a presentation like this, if you recall, where we talked primarily about the project and why we were proposing the project. The notice of intent had a public comment period. We had 90 days to comment on what the project proposal was prior to scoping happening. Now that we've had scoping and we've had all the studies done, the draft EIS has been released in May of 2026, so just a few weeks ago. We are in the middle of a 90-day comment period currently, and that's why we're doing this public outreach to encourage all of you to participate in the process. Next, on August 27th, the comment period will close, and we'll be continuing on to the final EIS. So that'll be the final document that the decision makers will use to guide their decision. Why the project is being studied. The Forest Service purpose is to respond to Waterville Valley's Resorts application under the National Forest Ski Area Permit Act. The proponent, the resort, objectives are 4. These are the 4 items on the screen. First of all, we want to create a non-vehicular connection. We want to add train diversity. We want to improve the base area access. And we'd like to add year-round expansion for guest service spaces. This is the purpose and the need. So these are the lenses that we compare all of our alternatives to. This is the map of the proposed project. I know it looks kind of like a like not very well pictured up here because it's a screen, but I'll walk you through it. So basically right down here is you've got the town. So this here is the town. Conference Center is right about here. This is Town Square. So this is the bottom leg of the gondola that would lead up to a mid station here. This is the access road that leads into the parking lots. So these are all those parking lots that are 8, 7, 8, 9, 10, or excuse me, 6, 7, 8, 9, right there. And then this is the Lollipop Loop here, the administration building, the Tecumseh lift is here, Green Peak lift is here, Meadows lift is here. This is the current boundary line of the SUP right now. And this is what we're proposing to expand to now. And this is what we're proposing to have for future expansion. This portion here of the gondola leads to the top. And that's going to be the second leg of the gondola. So you will be able to board the gondola at the mid station to be able to ski just the top. The top is over 1,200 vertical feet. It's a good length. These white lines here are the skiable runs. So these are your traditional ski trails. You can see the white line over on the side. That's a traditional ski trail. Everything else in brown is the gladed runs. So project components at a glance. So this is what we're proposing. We're proposing a lift that is 8,550 feet long. We're proposing 32 acres of new trains. So just so you have a comparison, the Green Peak expanded train was approximately the same. I believe it was 34 acres. We're proposing 200 acres of gladed terrain. We're proposing a 20,000 square foot mid-station facility We're proposing a 30,000 up to a 30,000 square foot Green Peak Summit facility, 80 spaces at the mid station, 80 parking spaces at the mid station, 333 acres expansion to the special use permit, and a 710 acre management area review. So just in a real quick, easy way to think about it, the gondola will go from Town Square to the mid station to the Green Peak Summit. The Town Square is, of course, where the lodging, the village shops, and families are that are staying for longer stays in the condos and in all the hotels. Mid station will have a parking area, a loading and unloading area, and it'll allow us to have skier circulation. And of course, the top of Green Peak, we'll be able to access the train up there. We'll be able to have a summit facility, and that will give us that scenic access to up directly from Town Square into the mountains. This is a slide that I took from our guest research surveys. And as you can see from our guest research, skiing and family, we have very high marks. We have a very strong strength there. Variety of terrain, we have a high mark, but we have a strong strength. However, if you pay attention to Ski Magazine, they always knock us for that a little bit. Overall fun, we're very high. We have a strong strength there, but our arrival and parking experience, it has a huge effect on our overall guest satisfaction. This has been proven through the data, but it's a major detractor for us. We all know we have to take our skis off and we have to haul all of our stuff up the hill into the base lodge, or we ride the bus up, which is more convenient. However, it's a school bus and it's not exactly the most luxurious way to arrive at your ski destination, and it can be a little packed at times. And you have to wait. There's a lot of waiting for that. We also know that our food and beverage, it has moderate experience rating, but it also lends ourselves to a huge opportunity with this, because once we open the town link, we can obviously offer more for our food and beverage. When it comes to Valley and retail experiences, that also will unlock the Valley stores and all the retail experiences there. All right, so how does this change for the guests and the families? Many people will still choose to drive up to the mountain, especially day skiers and families with gear. But others, like the condo guests, the lodging guests, the family members, especially the family members that don't ski, Nordic users, if you're trying to do multi-sport day, I know some of us do, we try to go Nordic skiing and alpine skiing, and people going to town just for lunch or shopping. This will make more flexibility for your mountain experience, and it will create that direct connection from town to the mountain. All right, so let's get into the draft EIS. NEPA is a process for analysis and disclosure. We're in the NEPA process. We're supposed to analyze everything and then disclose it to the public, so the public understands what the trade-offs are for doing a project on the forest, as there always are. The draft EIS is meant to support decision making. So this is a process where we're getting public opinion, we're getting scientific opinion, and then we're giving it to a decision maker. It is not that this whole draft EIS does not replace public participation. That's what we're here tonight to do, is gain public participation, and that's what the comment periods are for. So this document is intended to disclose potential effects of the alternatives that we'll go over in a minute, and show the public what the agency is considering. It is part of the decision process. This is not a permit. This is not a construction approval. And this is definitely not the final record of decision. We're going to have quite a bit of time before we get to that final record of decision yet. So where the official process stands. So as neighbors, we can talk, we can attend meetings, we can ask questions, but the formal comments must be submitted through the official Forest Service channels if we want to have these comments in the project record. So if you want to QR these right here, you can actually get directly to the formal comment area and the official project page. We also have it listed in our website. If you just type in Waterville Valley DEIS into Google, it's going to pop up first thing. Ours is going to be first, and Forest Service is going to be second. It's very easy to find, so please scan that if you want. We do have 90 days of a total comment period. The date is that it will end is going to be Thursday, August 27th. So Thursday, August 27th. We need to make sure we get comments in prior to that. All right. So let's go over some of the alternatives. The draft EIS studies different options so the responsible official and the public can compare trade-offs, as there always are going to be some trade-offs. So the first alternative that we always talk about is the no action alternative. This is doing nothing. The second alternative is the proposed action. That's exactly what we propose to the National Forest. It's the full project, the lift, the train, the facilities, the parking, the forest plan amendments as we propose. And then there's the third alternative, the reduced scope and scale, modified project that can, with reductions in resources that were found during the scoping process. So alternative 2, proposed action. This is the Village to Summit lift system, the 32 acres of traditional terrain, approximately 200 acres of graded terrain on mountain facilities, parking, the special use permit expansion, and the forest plan amendment. Alternative 3. Now this is what's been taking place since our last meeting to this meeting. This is the alternative 3 that they've taken into account due to the scoping. The first thing is the alternative 3 has a reduction of 5,000 square feet at the Summit Lodge. Glades are reduced to 168 acres. The mid-station shifted approximately 80 feet northwest. The tree removal would be limited to the months between August 15th and April 15th. Additionally, it will remove 100 acres of the existing special use permit. So part of the existing special use permit in alternative 3 is reduced by 100 acres. And it narrows the scale of the forest plan amendment. So at a glance, this is the comparison. It's not the full table. If you want to have the full table, it's much better to look at the draft EIS document. But this is a kind of a quick version that you can take a look at to really get the main topics. The big things here are these glades, 200 acres to 168, the up to 30,000 square feet at the Green Peak facility. And I think that's important to understand our vision of the Green Peak facility. We're not talking about a luxury space up there. We're talking truly about a public space. We're talking about something that's going to add a lot of public value. They reduced that by 5,000 square feet to 25,000 square feet in alternative 3. Parking spaces stay the same at 80 spaces, and the total change in the special use permit goes from 333 acres to 233 acres. And remember, that's not due to less acreage on Green Peak. That's actually less acreage on our current special use permit. So that's up by High Country, that we would be taking some of that terrain out of our special use permit and adding the special use permit that we have down in the lower elevations. All right. I'm going to take a drink of water real quick. All right, so the draft EIS states that the responsible official will decide whether to select no action alternative, so that's do nothing. Alternative 2, which was everything that the resort has proposed. Alternative 3, which we just went through, or a combination of any of the above. So I call this the charcuterie board of decision making. They can pick whichever one they really like, and they can make that their decision. Now, they take into account all of this comment that we're making right now. They take that into account. They take into especially the comments that come in on the communication pages during these comment periods. So the first comment period, we already put in some comments. Now we're in the second comment period. That goes into the public record. So they're reading that as we go through this. So it's really important to make that public comment. But they also take in the final EIS. So the things that could change from now until then is, they could find out that there's a little bit more studying they want to do about a certain area. They want to do a little bit more a comment comes in about some issue, and they want to do a little bit more on that. And that's when they finalize that EIS. Okay. So we've started the process. We've seen some key questions. This is the process. This is what we're welcoming. So right now we're just about 20 comments on the page. There's some good questions, and that's exactly what the draft EIS process is for. This is exactly why it exists. So one of the big things that we've heard so far is traffic, parking, and core idea. The traffic is the core idea. The traffic and the parking is the main purpose of this. The project is intended to reduce unnecessary short car trips between the town and the mountain. I'm sure many homeowners, especially over on the north end, you're going to decide to drive a car from the north end up to the ski resort rather than drive into town. It's more convenient. Maybe even some of the south end, folks that will have to jump in a car anyway, so they probably will head up to the mountain right away. When you envision the town core and you envision what's going to be there, it's going to be a landing spot for the gondola. So if you're thinking about that, it's similar to Killington. Have you guys been to Killington? Have you been to Starship? It's the gondola that comes off the backside. Parking lot's always empty. It's the easiest place to jump on the lift. It's the quickest place to jump on the lift. Parking lot's always empty because day customers and others want to be in the base lodge. They want to be in the center, and that's still going to be up at the base of the mountain. The bottom of the gondola is truly for those lodging guests, the condo guests, the family members that will walk or ride the shuttle to and from the gondola. The day skier, I would imagine if you're coming in from Manchester, Concord, any of those major areas that we see a lot of day skiers from, they're probably going to continue to turn left. Parking by the numbers. So this slide is taken out of the DES. This is table 3.4-3 and table 3.4-6 of existing conditions. So currently at the mountain, we have 1,800 spaces. With our comfortable carrying capacity, so this is a calculation that we do for how many people we can fit on the chairs, how many people we can put into the base lodges, how many people we can facilitate at the ski area in one day. That would require 1,479 parking spaces. That leaves us a surplus of 321 spaces. Under the action alternative, both 2 and 3, we would be required to have we would have 1,880 spaces, and we'd be required to have 1,828 spaces, which gives us a surplus of 52 spaces. This does not mean at every moment that there's going to be ample parking for everyone, and it's not going to feel uncongested. As we all know, we're here in New England. It feels congested some days when we're skiing, especially on those peak days. But it directly addresses the fear that the project creates an overrun of the parking. Important aspect is that the day skiers are still expected to find mountain parking more convenient, while the lift system gives a town guest and the shuttle riders another way to reach the mountain. So it's really making extra spaces and extra flexibility. The day skiers, once again, are likely to park in the mountain. They generally like to boot up, either at their car or at the base lodge. If you can park at the mountain and ski to the mid station, so if you think about that map that I showed earlier, where you could see where lots 6, 7, 8, 9 are all at, that's going to have a trail right next to it. So you'll be able to park at those lots and then go down. If you think about the way we park now, if you park at the top of the resort, everyone fights for lot 1, spot 1, right? That's the easiest one. That's one right next to the stairs that you can get right up into the base lodge. You still have to walk up a lot of stairs to get there, but it is a desired parking spot. Now with this proposal, we're going to spread that out. You're going to have lot 1, spot 1 in multiple different locations. You think about the parking lots 6, 7, 8, and 9. At the ends of those where the ski trail is, where we have the ski down, those are all desirable spots now because you can get directly onto the ski trail and ski down. Or if you're in Town Square and you're staying at the Town Square condos or Black Bear or any of those places, you'll be able to walk right to the lift. You won't even have to get in your car. Adding a lot of flexibility. So this really does make a stronger connection supporting the town activities. The gondola is intended to make the town and the resort function more like a connected destination. The draft EIS estimates about 76,000 additional guests and about 20.9 million in annual direct visitor spending, supporting about 55 full-time equivalent employees. Better access, more flexible family experiences, and stronger year-round activities. People are also asking a lot about the resources, community characteristics, and decision process. These are exactly the types of issues that the draft EIS is intended to analyze and that public comments can address. So some of these other more deep, so after you get through the draft EIS and you've read 170 plus pages of that, then you can jump into these special reports. And one of the first special report we'll talk about is the wetlands and water resources. So this is the hydrology report. It evaluates the streams, the wetlands, the vernal pools, water quality, water quantity, and watershed conditions. The vernal pool report identified 9 confirmed vernal pools and 1 probable vernal pool in the project area. The draft EIS states that alternative 3 would reduce direct wetland impacts by 0.26 acres. You remember moving the mid-station 80 feet to the northwest? That's what that's for, is because we found some wetlands in that area where we originally designed to have the mid-station, so we're planning to move that. We're really working on these studies and taking these into consideration as we're planning out all the next steps of this, and that's what this is all about. And we still have a lot of permitting, a lot of mitigation that we can do. This is just the start. So we started looking at the wildlife habitat. We do have a lynx habitat area that is also in the Forest Plan S3 issue. This is central to the EIS. This is part of the reason why in the alternative 3, they're reducing some of that glading area, because some of that glading area was in some lynx habitat, and if we can eliminate some of that, we can eliminate some of the lynx habitat that would possibly be disturbed. The draft EIS also analyzes the north long-eared bat, the American marnet. Is that how you say that? And the general wildlife habitat. Alternative 3 includes resource-focused changes such as tree removal, window and glade tree removal windows and glade reductions. The project decision should acknowledge that the importance of wildlife protection while also recognizing the operational feasibility questions. So some of these things we have to take in that balance. Remember, this is all trade-offs. We have to take in the balance. What is it going to, how much of this can we do and still accomplish the purpose and need? And how much is going to have habitat disturbances, and what effects could it possibly have on the wildlife? And we have to weigh that, and that's why it's important to read these so you can understand things like the tree cutting being from August 15th to April 15th. That's in direct response to the northern long-eared bat. That's their nesting period. So there's things like that are inside of there that they are considering, and we're trying to work around those certain issues so that we can identify it and hopefully not have any damage. But there's also an effect on that. I've never tried to take down a full ski trail of trees in the wintertime. I know there's a lot of winter logging that happens, but if you think about the fall, it can get wet, it can get slippery. We're working with chainsaws. During the winter, it's icy, it's snowy. If you're glading in the winter, you'd be cutting trees at your hip. So there's those types of things that we have to balance in operational feasibility and the ability to do some of these things. Soil construction and design controls. So the soils are analyzed because tree clearing, glading, roads, utilities, and construction can expose mineral soils, creating compaction and increasing erosion potential. The soil's technical report includes field verification and site-specific analysis. So they went out there and they actually checked what the dirt is and what's in the dirt. We just had this done down at the Adventure Center, and we found that there's a ton of clay down there now, which I didn't expect to run into. But this is to identify where things like the roads will go, where the utilities will go. How do we work around these? Where do we make sure that we don't disrupt areas that are sensitive? And we also want to make sure that we know to stay on those roads. That's a big portion of this. So we identify where the work roads are and things of that sort. These impacts won't disappear, but they are identified, and they can be managed through design criteria and best management practices. This one's cool. This is the scenery and visual impact study. Yeah, this is done with simulation. This is not done just by like abstractly, you know, just, oh, I think it's going to have this type of view. They actually did these simulations from different perspectives. They did it from Snows Mountain Upper Terminal, the Scour, Middle Tri-Pyramid, Mount Osceola, and Sandwich Dome. The visual effects are evaluated using actual viewpoints, and then they change from those viewpoints. They put in the area. So if you look here, this is current conditions, and you can see there's nothing on this side of the mountain. Where on this one, you can slightly see the trail that comes down the side. And then you can also slightly see where the gondola line would be. Then you can also see the trail that comes up, the couple of trails that come off of the bottom of Governor's Run, top of the meadows. Facility designs, materials, and colors, and where they're sitting also matter in this. So thinking about the top facility of Green Peak, we don't want to have some big facility up there that's going to stand 10 feet, 200 feet tall with reflective glass windows, and like that's not what you're going for, right? We want it to fit in harmony with nature. We actually worked with some architects on just the preliminary studies of this. How is it done elsewhere in the United States? But we really are looking a lot at Europe and how Europe is doing their facilities and how they're doing their modern mountaintop buildings, as they're really in the forefront of all of this. But that all matters, and it all changes the colors, right down to the color of the building, color of the lift towers. All of that matters. The Summit facility, now I talked about this once before about it not being this luxurious facility. It's going to have some luxury. There's going to be weddings and things up there. We want to have that as part of this facility. However, the Summit facility is really intended to support the restrooms. I have to say that first. Restrooms, the food service, the shelter. Obviously, we need shelter. It's going to be scenic access. It's going to be a place for us to have events and year-round public use. If you've ever been up to the top of Green Peak, the view is beautiful right now. The sunny side is absolutely gorgeous. If you ever have a chance and feel courageous, climb a tree. There's a gorgeous view out the other direction. And when you look down upon the town and see our little town, our little island, sitting in the middle of the White Mountain National Forest and all surrounded by the beauty of the White Mountain National Forest, it is really something spectacular to view. You can see all the way down Sandwich, the Sandwich Range, all the way down 49, all the way up to Osceola. Tri-Pyramids looks massive behind you. It makes you feel small because you ride up this 8,500 foot long gondola to the top, and when you get there, you still feel small. It really gives perspective to the size of the mountain, and of course, Tri-Pyramids on the other side. It is gorgeous. We want to showcase that. We want that to be for the public's intake. We want to be able to take people that maybe don't ski, maybe have never been to the mountains, maybe they're in the lakes region for the summer and they just want to come up for the day and visit what the mountains have to offer. We can offer that here in Waterville Valley, and we want to make that connection. So that's really where the year-round experience comes in. We're envisioning events, everything from s'mores on the rooftop deck to, having a band up there in the Friday evening, or having the wedding couple that gets married and has the beautiful pictures, playgrounds, things of that sort. Think of that European top of the mountain experience. That's what we're going for. So with Alternative 3. I talked about this a little bit about Alternative 3 and what we're looking at for different parts of that alternative. some of the things that are concerning to me when I'm looking at this is I'm trying to think of it in a guest service aspect, because really that's what we're doing this for. We're here using the public lands to provide a guest service so that all of the public can enjoy their national forests. So what does that look like? Does alternative 3 have any trade-offs that we have to manage? Does alternative 3 have some advantages? Of course. Those are the things we're looking at right now, and that's really where the comments come in. That's where this long-term planning, that's what this is all about. This is all about understanding these portions of the project and understanding what is a good substantive comment for the utilization of having that top of the mountain facility for the skiing, for the flow, for the reduced cars that are going to be on our roads, for the increased pedestrian village that we've all desired all of the time. Those are all those pros. What are also the cons? What are the things that we're maybe not seeing here? After so many years of looking at this, I kind of get blinded sometimes by certain things. It's been eye-opening to me to see all these different specialists come in and see what they say about the project and what those pros and cons could be from their position. So that's what we're here today to do, is try to figure that stuff out and try to get more comments into the forest. So this is a truly public partnership. So what happens next? The draft EIS comment period is followed by the agency review of the comments. The final EIS is then submitted, and then there's a draft record of decision. So the decision maker then makes a draft record of decision. Once that draft record of decision is established, there's another objection period. So that's another period next winter where we're going to have a period of objection. And then those objections are responded to. And at the end of all of that, we get to the record of decision. Currently, the record of decision is anticipated in late summer, early fall of next year. We still have a long way to go, though. I know it seems like a tedious process, and trust me, I've been here for a long time, and I've been working through it right here with you. And hopefully you guys feel like you've been on the ride with us as we've gone through this, and you're getting more education about it. So just as a reminder, the DEIS comments period is 90 days, and it ends August 27th. And another important part of this is that on July 15th, so coming up in a couple of weeks, there'll be another public meeting. It'll be similar to this, but they won't have drinks and appetizers afterwards like we will, so thank you for being here. But you will be able to actually talk directly to the National Forest, because it's going to be at exit 27. The dates are not, the 15th is going to be the day that it happens, but we're not exactly sure what time or what room we're going to be in. So pay attention to the project page, as that will be listed on the project page as soon as they announce it. But that's going to be on July 15th. I highly encourage you to go there, because you'll be able to talk to the National Forest Service representatives that actually analyzed a lot of these specialist reports. All right, so the next part of this is questions. I'm going to open up the floor to anyone who has any questions, comments, concerns. I also have James Sununu here that will be able to help out with some questions if I don't have the answers, but I'll start with Matt. Go ahead.
Yeah, Tim, a question on alternative 3. You talked about the 80-foot shift because of the wetland potentially as an alternative. Does that, I guess my question is, I'm curious, does that impact in any way the placement of the base station, the village plan? Because I know we're kind of threading the needle to get out there to begin with. How does that potentially affect the right of way, I guess?
Oh, thank you. That's actually a really good point. Yeah, because we have been threading a needle, you're correct, to get between all the condos and everything. And it didn't change that location at all. We were able to move it when we said the northwest. That basically elongates the lower section just a little bit, and it changes the trajectory of the top section. So the top section, where we have more ability to move things, that top section is an area where we made that adjustment, not in the bottom section. But thank you, great question.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
As you know, Tim, the parking lots are in pretty bad shape. Does this plan include repaving the parking lots?
No, it does not. The mountain parking lots or the town parking lots?
Yes. Parking lots 1 through 9.
No, we will not pave the parking lots 1 through 9. The reasons that we stay away from paving up there is we can't regrade those. So if you recall a few years ago when we took the pavement out, it was because the pavement it doesn't last long enough up there. It gets beat up. It's incredibly expensive to pave. We will continue to grade and regrade the parking lots. The reason they've been a little rougher in the past couple of years is after we took out the pavement, it's been soft and we've been compacting throughout the summers. It will get harder and harder and they'll get better and better.
All right, and another question, are you going to be removing any of the existing lifts? Like the Green Peak lift, will that be coming
Nope.
out? All right.
No, not in this project proposal. There's no lifts being removed in this project proposal.
And how do you anticipate, how many additional skiers do you expect, and how will that affect lift wait times?
I don't have the exacts on how it affects lift rate. Lift wait time is an interesting topic. I can dive into this over a drink someday with you if you like. But the idea of how long it takes to get on a lift is really dependent on terrain diversity and how that terrain is skiing. So things like moving the Fun Run down into Valley Run really took a lot of traffic off of the old quad. So moving your mountain a little bit differently so that you have different products in different areas, taking segments of customers and moving them into different areas will greatly decrease the wait times on certain lifts. Obviously, Tecumseh is always going to be the longest lift, but when we're running it fast and we're running it consistently, that line moves very, very fast. Now, they don't analyze specifically exactly what lifts and how long the wait times are. What we calculate is comfortable carrying capacities. And to your question from earlier, how much does that expand? I don't know the exact number, but it's 76,000 skiers annually spread out amongst the 150 or so days that we ski. Yeah, go ahead.
Just, sorry, I was just, once someone asks a question, just so it ends up on the video, repeat the question, just so we make sure.
Okay.
We know we're getting your voice, but
Sure.
if the folks' question doesn't end up, I just wanted to mention that. So we'll repeat,
Yeah.
we're just repeating
No
your
problem.
question so it ends up on the video.
No problem. I'm going to go over Warren. Did you have your hand up? Or?
Yeah, so
Oh,
I'm sorry.
sorry,
So
go
the
ahead.
Green Peak as it is today is going to remain as it is today.
Yes and no. So Green Peak as today, the quad,
Repeat the question, Tim.
so thank you.
Do you want me to use the mic?
Sure. Do you want to use a mic? So the question is Green Peak going to remain the same as it is today? Yes, the chairlift, the triple chair will remain in the same exact spot. However, the triple chair on Green Peak is what we call a primary lift right now. So a primary lift is a lift that accesses a pot of terrain that is otherwise inaccessible. So if you think of Green Peak's triple lift, if it's not running, you can't access that terrain. So that's primary lift. A secondary lift is a major infrastructure, a major piece of lift equipment that allows more people to travel into a major pod of terrain. So a lift like the Valley Run lift is technically a secondary lift because you could get to the Valley Run lift from Tecumseh. However, if you ride Tecumseh, you have to go down a blue. There's no green from the top of Tecumseh where there's a green from the top of Valley Run. And then there's what's called a tertiary lift. A tertiary lift is basically a redundant lift. So if you think about that, that would be the sunny side, the north side. Those lifts, you can ski the entire mountain. You can ski that area. All difficulty levels are about the same. However, when we're crowded, we can turn those lifts on and get more people to ski more runs and get more elevation in. So to directly answer your question, what will happen on Green Peak, we probably won't run that lift quite as often because we will have a primary lift that's going to be the gondola compared to the Green Peak triple, which is going to be technically a tertiary lift at that point. That's a long way to get to the answer of your question. It also will change the dynamics of Green Peak because we will have more people riding the gondola, utilizing that terrain. And as we all know, one of the things we love about Green Peak is it being a fixed grip triple, it makes it so that terrain stays really good all day long. It's got a lot of capacity. So by putting in this lift from the other direction, we are going to increase the number of people that will be able to ski those runs. But the runs have been designed to handle that load. Hopefully that answers your question. Go ahead.
Yeah, you may have mentioned this and I just didn't pick it up. But, what will be the surface on the mid-station parking? And if that new parking is going to be paved?
Yeah.
How's the runoff going to be?
I can't exactly say exactly how the runoff is going to be handled. We do anticipate impervious surface, at least on a large portion of that parking lot, as that will be a major delivery thoroughfare and year-round parking. So we won't leave that area dirt as we do with the ski resort parking that's primarily seasonal parking. But there will be runoff, and that will all be taken care of through all of our permitting that we go through with alteration of terrain. So whenever you change an impervious surface, you have to change out what the drainage looks like. So that drainage will be into our site plan that will go into the state, and the state will give us an AOT after they have the approval of the hydrology of that area. So that is another step that we would be taking in those construction details.
Thank you.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I know this is centered on the environmental, but most of my questions are financial. Everything from what will the cost of something like this be to ride for pass holders / property owners? What will the impact and cost be on the town for additional water and wastewater treatment needs? I think we're going through a financial crisis and redoing our wastewater treatment plan. And then just what jeopardy will the whole mountain be, if the financing for this and the plans for this don't go well and the business. So I don't know if the financial end of things is going to be addressed today or if that's another meeting.
So the financial end of things is technically a business decision from the business side. So things about like how much does the lift ticket cost? Very hard to say right now. As we know, the past 10 years, ticketing has totally changed and flipped upside down. Maybe it'll flip the other way. Who knows at this point? So it's very hard to tell what a lift ticket or something along those would cost. And of course, financials, and how much of a risk are we putting the business at? All that, that's a business decision. That's a financial risk that, James and I and the board and all have decided that, this is the route that we want to go and we see the best upside for. So that's an internal business decision. Now, on the other side, you're talking about municipalities and talking about the challenges of our town. Now, that is definitely not part of the draft EIS and is not a consideration from the National Forest. That would be outside of their scope. So they have limits. They can only go so far. They can't go into, how is this going to affect I-93 down by exit 3? How many more cars are going to be down there? That'd be way outside the scope. Now we're talking a little closer, things like wastewater treatment. We have assessed, the wastewater treatment, and we have put into the process, because we're going through that difficult process right now as a town, we can't predict what it's going to be. So in the draft EIS, you'll see that currently it's anticipated that it will be exactly the same as it is now. We all know that's probably not going to be the case, but we'll address it at the time as we go through the next few years of this process. But they couldn't take that into account because it's very unclear right now, so it's hard to analyze. When it comes to our opinions about what this does for the financials of the town, that's a different story. I can give you my opinion. I'm sure James has a slightly different opinion. I'm sure you all have slightly different opinions also. But the viewpoint that I have is this is the reason we need to do this gondola. It does connect the town. It does fulfill the development that Tom Corcoran started in 1966. This is the connection. This does allow us to get the larger tax base that we need to support our community. In my opinion, this is part of the solution. And so I really think that this is a big portion of how we need to get our density up. Our town was developed on concentric circles. The core is supposed to be the most developed. The core is supposed to be the most walkable. The core is supposed to be the area that we have the most activity. That's supposed to be the main spot of it. And right now, with the stall that we've had in development, it really isn't that way right now. And I believe we have the opportunity to right side our taxes and right side our needs for our municipality. So that's my belief.
Will they also be evaluating additional water needs for additional snowmaking?
Oh yeah, that's all in the hydrology report. It's actually a really good read if you go through it. It talks a lot about the hydrology of the lands in this area. One thing that's interesting and it's crucial for you guys to understand, we don't have a big retention pond right now. We draw directly out of the Mad River. So what we have is a stream flow. We have to maintain a minimum stream flow. So there's times when we manage that stream flow. To be honest, I've never had to do it. Since I've been here, we've never been, even that extremely dry year, that was the one year when I was going down and really watching that stream gauge a lot. We were still inches above that. Most of the time, we're well above it, like feet. So we have a lot of water. That water gets pumped up onto the mountain, goes right back into our aquifer. So remember, that is replenishing that water right back into our aquifer. When it comes to the mountain being on the water system, we don't take town water. We have our own wells at the mountain. So the mountain wells are state operated. So when for example, when we went through the scale, what, 2 weeks ago with the E. coli in the water systems, we were using the mountain system because the mountain system is a totally different water system that's regulated by the state. So there is utilities that we share a little bit, like the wastewater, but there's definitely utilities that are solely for the ski area. One big thing to remember too, a lot of the power that we use for snowmaking and things, we've drastically reduced it. When I first came on, we had 4 compressors that took 1 megawatt apiece. Last year, we only ran 2 of them, and we made more snow than we've ever made before. So all of these improvements that we've been making to the mountain with our snowmaking infrastructure have really started to pay off and allowed us to save a lot on our snowmaking, making a better quality product, making a better better utilization of our assets, and allowing us to use that power in other ways. We wouldn't have this much power in this valley if it weren't for the resort. There would be no reason to bring 3-phase high voltage 4112 power into the resort without it. So a big reason why we have this power infrastructure is because of what we have at the resort. And if you don't know, the substation was changed out last year, and we finally got very clean power. I know we've had a lot of power outages lately, but it's not because of the power, how clean the power is anymore. If you didn't know, we had dirty power pretty badly a few years ago. Any other?
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, I'm going to go over here. Yes, I'm trying to go back and forth.
Got me? Yeah.
Yeah, and I'll go over here next.
So
Sorry, I've been skipping you
I'm
guys.
back to parking.
Yeah, sure.
Do we assume that the buses are gonna go away?
No. We're hoping the buses get smaller and more frequent.
Still go to the mountain or to?
No, we won't.
Base of the,
We don't anticipate the bus systems going up to the mountain. It's a long drive. I mean, it's 3 miles.
right.
So we anticipate the bus system to stay in town and branch out from the core of town, having more stops more frequently. But with all the new technology that's happening right now, by the time we get there, who knows what it will look like? I mean, we could have the Uber of resort communities. I mean, there's literally a gondola system out there right now where the gondola cars come off of the line and land on an electric vehicle, and you can drive off. So, and that exists right now. I'm not kidding. So by the time we get there, who knows what it's going to look like? But yes, right now we anticipate maintaining a smaller, not smaller in quantity, but smaller in size buses. So using more of those 14 passenger size buses that reduce the driver restrictions. You don't have to have the big CDLs, and we anticipate those going out more frequently to stops and coming directly back to the core.
Okay, so the other part of the question I have is, will there be parking in town at the lower, the base end of the gondola?
Yeah, obviously there's going to be some public parking. We're going to have to put restrictions most likely on that parking, just like any resort community does, because you're going to want to make sure if you're going down for your mail, there's a parking spot for your mail. I know I saw Tony here earlier, so that's why I was thinking about her. But you definitely want to be thinking about things of that sort. There's going to be certain restrictions to make sure that parking spot to get your mail isn't taken up by the full day from someone skiing up at the mountain. That's through creative design. That's through parking restriction. That's through the things that we see at major resorts that we hope to aspire towards. It's going to be a good problem to have.
So there's no expansion of parking. It's just the parking that already exists, basically.
Well, so what?
This
what
is
will
jumping
hap-
into
yeah.
Tyrell land.
Yeah, so, but also it gets into the fact that, what the development at the base end of the gondola happens in town, right? So there's a whole nother set of processes that we haven't even talked about here that involves the town and their site plan review and what will happen here with the planning board, with the select board, with the towns approving the rights of the gondola to cross over public road. So that's a whole separate process. So parking will be, it's not addressed, that parking isn't addressed in here specifically because it's not on Forest Service land, but all of those parking questions will certainly be addressed and evaluated and be part of that when we get to that site plan level of, okay, here's where the gondola terminal is going to go and here's how it's going to be accessed, and everything about that will address that. And that's where we'll come up with, right now we have obviously a bunch of parking lots, but what we'll be looking at is having maybe more designated parking, some short-term parking, some long-term parking. We want to discourage day skiers from parking at the gondola and riding the gondola up. As Tim said, we want day skiers to go to the mountain, right? So we don't want to have the ability of someone to just leave their car for 8 hours and ride the gondola. That's not what we're looking for. And that's why we want to have more frequent buses circulating in town and, bringing homeowners and guests and lodging guests to the gondola base station and not drive their car half a mile over to the base station. So it's really going to be a comprehensive traffic planning that will be engaged in as part of that site planning for that bottom terminal of the gondola, and that will all go through the town, through the planning board, and there'll be another wholly distinct process from this EIS process associated with that.
Does that mean that the location of the gondola may still be up in the air? Or?
No, it's really fairly constrained. Because of the way the town is in private lands and the lands we have access to, there's really only one shot to get out of town. There's really only one route
It's
out of town.
the last shot out of town.
So we really will be working on that location and working on how do we design this to work well. And some of this goes back to, if you look at the town's master plan, it talks an awful lot about the goals of a pedestrian-friendly community. And all of that will be
That's what I was
factored
gonna
into this
mention,
of
yeah.
making it very walkable.
Yeah, one thing I was going to mention was if you go back to the 2015 town study for pedestrian circulation inside of the town, it's a great read. It's available on the town's website. It's another one of those documents I highly encourage reading. It talks all about the studying that they did for a number of years, talking to guests, talking to residents, and really encouraging pedestrian walkable areas. And it's one of those documents we reference a lot. Trying to reduce the amount of cars, not increase. Yes, over here. I haven't been over that entire side of the room.
Well, you answered one of the major questions, which was, are we going to see increased vehicular traffic coming in down the valley, turning on Village? And was there going to be like a parking garage or something there too? I guess one of the continuing questions on that is, how do we prevent people from driving into there saying, oh, there's probably parking there, and then they turn around and go back out and go park at the mountain, and then you just have this twofold increase or whatever, but it sounds like that's separate. My other question was answered, but the final one was really the current size of the base lodge compared to what you're talking about at the midpoint. Any scale, like comparisons on that?
The midpoint, so 20,000 square. Have you been to the Rosebrook at the top of Bretton Woods?
No.
Okay, so Rosebrook's about 16,000 of customer space, so it's a little larger than that for the mid-station. 20,000 square feet at the mid-station is going to fill up pretty quickly, just with ticket offices. In the master development plan, we have other ideas for making that more of our day skier lesson area. So there's the ideas of having a small rental facility, cafe, those types of things in that mid station. So 20,000 square feet. What is this room? I'm forgetting. 4? Something like that.
Something like that.
I know we have 16,000 in this building, so it's a little bit bigger than this building.
All right, one final question I just thought of. Is there consideration for the gondola running like early and late, so people who are like, hey, I'm up at midpoint, I want to go have drinks?
Yeah, actually, that's a really
my car.
Yeah, it's a really good point.
Or silver streakers.
We've discussed this one a lot,
Yeah.
honestly, because there's different technologies we can use to turn the corner. Because we're going to turn the corner and we're going to make, coming up from town and turn the corner and go up. And there's multiple different forms of technology that we're evaluating right now. Some that will only allow the gondola to go all the way back up. But a lot of the desire that we have is to put a bull wheel there and have 2 distinct separate haul ropes so that you can turn the bottom section on and leave this top section off, which will allow you to keep that gondola open later. Like if when we continue to have night skiing advanced, then you could ski down there and be able to ski down for night skiing. Also, it would allow us, if it was windy up top, we wouldn't have to run the cars all the way to the summit. To the busing question, that's why I was a little hesitant there, because if we do have a wind issue, we may have to bus. from the mid station up to the mountain, or we may have to bus from the town up to the mid station, depending on if there's a mechanical or if there's something like that that could happen. We are putting those thoughts into it also. Oh, Katie picked one. He likes Charlie, apparently.
Well, this question, I think, is part of how you just ended that. Is there a solution for people who have a locker? And are there going to be lockers at the top?
You wanna take that
or is
one?
it going to be a shuttle mid-station?
All of those guest services, those types of things, you know, we have the Silver Streaks, we have lockers, all of those things we will continue to offer. We don't have an exact plan if we can say, oh, here's where the lockers will be, right? But those are valuable guest services that we want to not only continue, but to enhance. As you all know, sometimes we're constrained on space in what we can do in our existing facilities. So all of those things that guests enjoy and that we like to provide to guests, those amenities, all of those things will be part of the plan.
I think a good way to think about all of that is just like the parking and the movement of the guests around the resort, it adds flexibility and opportunity. And so things like having a locker maybe in town square rather than having it at the main mountain might be an opportunity for us. Or it's very hard to say right now exactly what opportunities there will be when the finalized development is done. But we've thought a lot about that, and about the opportunities of like the ski school I evaluated earlier, having the main mountain. We have this, this competition center that we've been so proud of, but it almost wrecks the experience for a beginner skier. If you think about being a beginner skier and going and skiing on the pasture and then making your way across our base area to get to meadows, I mean, that is not a great experience. So the opportunity of having the mid station and having a much calmer area, because it'd be similar to Green Peak, it'll be a much calmer area, and having that first timer experience at that mid station is something in my mind that I think about a lot. So it's those types of opportunities. Okay, I'm going back over on the middle.
I'm taking over for a second.
Oh,
Where
okay.
did you say to go to?
Over here.
They can't hear on YouTube the questions, so even though we're saying them in the mic, they're
Okay.
not. So I need you to repeat the question.
Okay, sorry.
But I'll still have music.
Sorry, you too.
Okay, just a couple questions on the gondola. Cabin size,
Oh, you're writing my book now. So the question
Don't get
is,
them started.
the question is basically what the technology is of the gondola, what the cabin size is of the gondola, what the look of the gondola will be. Right now, everything we're doing is based on a really basic, traditional 10-person gondola. All of our evaluation has been based on that. But there's so many more things I could talk
how
to you about.
long would the ride be from the town square to the mid-station?
Sure, that is all dependent. Okay, how long is you're gonna have to keep reminding me of that. How long is the ride going to be from the base area to the mid station to the summit? It's 8,500 linear feet. We're just about 6,000 linear feet on Tecumseh. So it's gonna be about a third longer than Tecumseh is. Now that's saying that we're running at the speed of Tecumseh. Now, a lot of the time we're gonna run at a slower speed. Just because of the scenic aspect of the lift. This isn't a skier's lift like Tecumseh is. We don't need to run it fast. We want to keep it at the correct pace for loading, for unloading, for getting in and out of the gondola, for having that experience of going over the river and through the woods. So there's going to be some of that we take into account, but speed is always relative on the guest.
Okay, just two more. Where does it cross over on, is it Snowsboro, or what condos is it near?
Osceola too.
So
The question is
where does it cross over? So the base terminal itself, if you know the town square parking lots, where the propane tanks are in the Ice Arena parking lot, essentially right there is where the terminal will go. It will cross over Village Road and through the parking lots. If you're in town square, just to the right of the Black Bear, so between the Black Bear Lodge and the Green Peak condos, it will cross Snows Brook and go up and over the Osceola One, up over and between the Osceola One buildings. And so, I'm sorry. I need to move this way. Okay.
Oh, jeez.
So up and over in the Osceola 1 condos that are, if you go across Snowsbrook Road, that's the condos right there at the corner as Snowsbrook goes around the corner. So that's, then it crosses the river from there, and from there it's in the Forest Service. And the mid station is just below the fork in the road as you're coming up to the mountain where Ski Area Road splits off of Triple I.
Okay, and lastly, how high will it be? At its highest point, I imagine.
So there's a ton of different options
The
with
question
the
is,
height.
how high will it be?
How high will it be? Thank you, Katie. The idea of the height of a gondola right now, the standard gondolas are just like what we have on the chairlifts, anywhere from 20 to 40 feet high, sometimes upward of 60 or 70. The newer technologies, they can go much higher than that. There's different technology that's coming out even since we did Tecumseh. Tecumseh is a much higher lift than other lifts because we pull much higher tension because of the hydraulic tension that we're now using in these chairlifts and much thicker ropes. There's other technologies that we're looking at that could get even higher than that, but there's limits. The higher you go, the more wind there is. The higher you go, the more visual impact there is. The lower you go, well, the less scenic it is. So there's a balance that we have to take into account as we go through the engineering. Good? I'm gonna get to the end again. Oh, I just closed it out, didn't I?
Where's that?
All right, next question?
Yeah, that's the snowmaking pond.
My question concerns Sunnyside Lodge and the future of that. I don't know, it's rumor, but I thought that it could shut down primarily because of lack of staffing. So where's the staff when you come for the?
So it's not a lack of staffing. Okay, so the question is what's happening with the Sunnyside Lodge? It doesn't pertain to this project proposal. The Sunnyside Lodge was not due to low staffing. That's not the reason we shut it down. The reason we've had it shut down is because there's no insulation in that building. That's a log homing kit, and you can feel the breeze come right through the logs. When we were doing analysis of the facility, we found out that the facility was burning 300 gallons of diesel fuel a week on average. So it really made it so it's not efficient, it's not productive. It's just going to continue to get worse without some major renovations. And unfortunately, the lodge was put into a really hard spot. The rules on lodges is you put them at the tops and the bottoms of the chairlifts. And you could say, well, it's right at the bottom of the Sunnyside chairlift. I don't know about you, but I don't go to the Sunnyside Lodge and then go back to the Sunnyside chairlift. It goes the wrong direction. Also, the lodge doesn't face the Sunnyside chairlift. It faces the center of Valley Run, and even worse, it faces downhill slightly of the Sunnyside Run. So it's really hidden in the hole. It has not had great profitability, and it doesn't really service our guests well. With the expansion of our base lodge, we have found that the expansion of our base lodge has serviced our guests much better. And the marginal investment that we would make into Sunnyside Lodge is very hard to justify. Hopefully with more skier visits, we can justify doing something more with it. We've been racking our brains on what to do with it. It does work well for the World Cup. We have changed the utilities inside of it so we can turn it on and turn it off relatively quickly. So for example, for the World Cup, we only have it running for about 10 days, which allows us to use it for special events. And that's turned out to be pretty good. But right now we're struggling to foresee exactly what the future of that is. Yeah, go ahead.
So understanding that the draft EIS is around the gondola, but it seems to me you have three stakeholders that are all impacted by the decision here. You have the resort itself, you have Tyrell Corporation, you have the town, and you have the residents. So I know we can't get into all the details and all the other things, but are there opportunities to be able to have this type of discussion? Because maybe it fits better in those other portions, but the aesthetics, the town congestion, what the town looks like. Is there going to be an opportunity for the other stakeholders to contribute to that discussion later?
Yeah. So the question is about the impacts not just on the resort, where this addresses Forest Service lands, that's the Forest Service's job. That's why they go through this process. and, versus what happens in town here, in the center of town with the town itself and abutters and landowners and things like that. So, yes, as I mentioned before, for example, the whole bottom terminal and everything that is in town until it crosses into the Forest Service will be subject to a very intensive review process by the town, by the planning board. The select board and the town itself have to approve the right to cross public roads. The state has to approve our right to cross Route 49. So all of those things will be subject to review processes, all of which have public input opportunities. So a site plan review for the planning board has generally multiple public hearings where folks can participate in that process, ask questions, hear what the planning board is seeing in the site plan that is submitted. So that whole process that happens in town will have multiple opportunities for public input in as much as people want to participate in that process.
I'm going to ask a question from YouTube.
Go ahead.
What terrain would be lost in the high country swamp?
So the alternative 3 high country, the terrain, the 100 acres or so, what they're speaking to is skiers left of the T-bar. That area is technically in our ski area special use permit. And so we do have the ability to expand into that area currently, and that's the area that in alternative 3 has been identified as being removed from the special use permit.
So it would not remove any existing skiable terrain. It would only prevent that terrain from being used for future expansion.
Assuming that this gets approved next summer, sounds like possibly. I looked at the master plan. Master plan has the hotel, has the removal of the town square building that currently holds Bahaskan and the loft, and then the gondola. Is this a package deal, or will the gondola be done first, or is the hotel part of this that all has to kind of happen together?
So the question is about, he's referring to the master plan, is about that plan and the conceptual master plan for the center of town and the elements in that. I'll emphasize, that is a conceptual plan. That is a plan that has not been proposed in either in part or in its entirety for those buildings, hotels, mixed-use buildings. That was a concept that was done as a planning exercise to look at what could be done. We went through several versions of those. We shared several versions of those with the town, with the select board, with the planning board, in public meetings to have a conversation about what could happen. But that is not a plan that we are specifically proposing that now. Anything that happened on land in the center of town that was on privately held land in town would be subject to that same planning board review process that would be that I talked about before, where there would be public input, site plan reviews, all kinds of additional reviews that would happen. But those would be specific site plans that would be submitted to the town. They are separate from this. The gondola will have its own site plan submitted. Again, we talk about this draft EIS being one step in this EIS process that will go on for at least another year from now. As you said, I mean, the targeted decision date is over a year from now. It's in the fall of 2027. But this is just the first part of the whole process just for the gondola. There is many steps between even getting that decision and actually being able to, load a guest on that gondola. There's design, there's planning, there's engineering, there's further environmental review, permitting, site plan review for the town, for the bottom terminal. So we're a long ways away from that. And if and when pieces of that conceptual plan for private development in the center of town were to happen, those would be submitted to the town and subject to the same site plan reviews.
To be direct, Mike, the question was, is it a package deal? The answer is no. It is not a package deal. This is the resort that's going to be putting in the gondola, and the development company would be the one doing the development in town.
Okay, so a follow-on would be, assuming you get approval, is the gondola first?
Hopefully.
Well, I mean,
it depends.
the gondola is furthest along for sure, but again, it all depends on what happens in terms of the opportunity to develop that real estate that is in town. Obviously, as Tim mentioned, we see the center of town as the hub of that commercial activity in town. We believe building more hotel beds in the center of town is important and stuff, but we don't have any specific plans ready now. As part of the planning board process, I don't know if anyone's watched any planning board meetings, but that is an involved process, and we've tried to keep open lines of communication with the planning board about what our plans are, and as we move along them, that will be made as public as we can.
I have another question from YouTube. Will homeowners and property taxes, I assume this means be affected as a result of the project?
Hopefully it'll help decrease the property tax.
The question is, will the gondola affect property taxes in town? I can't anticipate how it could increase property taxes. What it will add is taxable property to the tax base in town, which provides more tax base over which to spread the property tax burden. Tim alluded to this, a little bit earlier, talking about that development in town, is that all that potential commercial development in town around the gondola would do the same. One of the benefits it actually drives is it increases the proper taxable base, property tax base of town, which gives you more taxable property over which to spread that tax burden and hopefully, mitigate property taxes somewhat.
You do talk a lot about commercial properties, but in your plan, you also have residential high density.
Yeah, there's all kinds of things. Again, that is a conceptual plan. We've shared it in a public meeting before and at the planning board, and we're always happy to answer questions about it. It's a mixed use plan that has hotels, some residential, restaurants, commercials, retail, all kinds of different aspects to it.
You just yell it up at us. We'll have to repeat it anyways.
My question is, if this comes to fruition, no more bus rides to the mountain?
Okay, so the question is there bus rides to the mountain? And the answer is hopefully not. The idea is that we're going to have those smaller buses inside of the town that will circulate more frequently to bring people to the core and then go out from there.
Everyone rides a gondola.
Yeah, in the conceptual that we've done, we actually add bus stops on either side of the gondola so that they come in from both sides, so that the pedestrian traffic comes from two separate directions towards the core.
Well, I'm going to the next one. I have one last one on here. It says, are glade skiing of demand with the public? And can glades use natural snow? Can Waterville rely on enough snow to offer glade skiing?
So the question is glade skiing attractive to the skiing public, and do we have enough natural snow for glade skiing? Well, this year we definitely had enough natural snow. We had a lot of glade days this year. Glading is a very good balancing mechanism for the resort. We get knocked on our variety of terrain. Glade skiing adds a tremendous amount of variety of terrain to our ski resort. It also makes it so that when we're talking about lift lines and talking about how we choose where to put the lifts and how the lift lines are affected by the different aspects of the circulation of the skiers, glades are wonderful for that. It slows the expert skier down. It has them going through the woods. There's a lot of objects there. So glade skiing is really great when we do get that high snow, when we do get a lot of people coming, because remember, the guests come when it snows. When it doesn't snow and we don't get the natural snow, we don't see nearly the number of guests. So when we have that expansion of guests like we had this year with all of our natural snow, the glades are great barometric pressure for the resort. It's a really good way to manage the resort. That's why we're encouraging more glade skiing.
With the phase out of the buses, have you guys thought of a contingent plan for when the gondola goes down, whether it's high winds, mechanical failures?
Yep. Yeah, that's all will be in the operational plans. That's why we will keep bus routes going, why we will keep buses going. This is a very common problem in most ski areas, especially out west, where they have large pods of skiable terrain that they don't have any access to other than one lift. So that goes into your planning on your operational plans of how you would get the guest flow to start moving as a secondary access. A way to access. So yes, that does go into the planning. Go ahead.
To me, one of the great appeals of this whole project is that it provides a lift access in the summertime to one of our higher peaks. And as you mentioned, top of Green Peak has some spectacular views. It's a beautiful spot. In the winter, there are only a few places up there on the trail where you get a good view down. And I know you thought about this. Could you comment some more on how summer access to this could become a real draw, a real appeal? Lots of,
yes.
I can just envision terraces to sit out and have your coffee, little nature trails with views. What kinds of things might make this a really nice attraction off-season in the summer?
Oh, I love this question. This is a great question. So the question is what, elaborate further on the off-season amenities of the top of Green Peak. If you've been to Europe and seen what they do with the Alpine in the summertime, the hiking, the biking, the children climbing area. I was in Europe a few years back and they had a treetop walk that I think would be absolutely perfect for this community, fully accessible. It's the size of a wheelchair, so the wheelchairs can go down it. They have little offshoots, so this walk is up in the trees. It could be 20, 30 feet up into the trees on wooden pillars, and you walk down the boardwalk, and the families can walk down. There's little outcroppings that will tell you about the views that you're taking in, about the history of the valley, about there'll be little outcrops where the kids can go and try to balance on a balance beam, that maybe there's a net underneath. It's just, I think would be a perfect amenity that would be spectacular up there. But that's the true draw in all of this is going to the top of the mountain. We all love, I mean, when my family comes to visit, I'd love to take, the tram, but we'll talk about that some other time. But we used to love to go to the top of the canyon and go to the top and go experience what the top is like. I always felt let down a little bit though. Like I felt like there needed to be a little bit more. And when you go to the Western mountains or you go to the Alps, there is that feeling of place. You get to the top and there's spots where you can relax and have your hot toddy, and there's a spot where you can watch the kids run around. Green Peak, the summit of Green Peak has that nice ability because it's not a super rugged, steep peak. It's got a nice meadow ability with Chandler's going down the side with Wong Way. On one side, you've got Green Peak and the big area right down below the main shelf on Governor's Way and Clean Shaven. There's beautiful areas for us to be able to recreate and be able to take in the nature that's all around us. And that's what we want to bring. And we're only 2 hours outside of Boston. This is a very accessible area for the public of the United States to be able to access their White Mountains, be able to see what we get to see every day. And that's what I see at the top. I think it could, I mean, my mind goes crazy when I start thinking about it. I've got all sorts of ideas, but thank you. Great question. Go ahead, Matt.
Tim, can I just piggyback off that question?
Sure.
Besides that, do you envision you mentioned weddings up there or special events or whatnot in the off season or even during the winter, potentially dining services similar to what you see like at Steamboat with the Mid-Mountain Thunderhead, where there could be evening dining options? Is that something that
absolutely? So the question is what other amenities inside that we're looking at? Is it similar to like places like Steamboat where they have top of the mountain evening dining? Absolutely. Those are some of the activities that we do envision for having there. Like I said, there's going to be some luxury aspects to it. There's going to be some tourism aspects. I could see a gift shop. I can see a cafe. I could see a place to just stop up there and take 10 minutes. Or I could see a experience that takes 2 hours, or I could see an event that is really spectacular. There's all that stuff comes into play. I was in Chamonix not too long ago, and there's some really great amenities as you go up towards like the Gitamadi and that areas. Where you can stop in these restaurants, and they have like on mountain different areas, and they have different activities for the kids and things of that sort. It gives that sense of place and the destination, and that's what we're really going for, and making it accessible to all. So whether it's your wedding or whether it's your family reunion or it's just you and your wife on a Sunday morning going up for a nice coffee at the top to take in the mountain breeze. All of those things is really what I see happening up there.
And that's why we are looking, that's why what we want to build is a gondola, not a chairlift, and have it start in town and not up partway up the mountain, is because if you look at these mountain communities that provide all of these opportunities for people to enjoy, it's having that terminal in town, so every generation from the toddler to the grandparents can get on there together and ride together, and access that. And it's a great ride year round, whether it, even if there's a breeze or some rain. You know, that's why a gondola is the ideal piece of machinery for this.
Go ahead.
So with a restroom at the top of Green Peak, what effect does that have on the future of the Schwindy Hut?
So the question is with the restaurant at the top of Green Peak, and what effect does it have on the Schwindy Hut? I threw out an idea a couple of years ago about just doing some light renovation to the Schwindy Hut, and I thought I was going to be put in the middle of town square. The Schwindy Hut is its own beast. It's an amazing facility. I don't think it will have any real effects. I do have, you know, the thoughts of doing that light renovation. We do need to do renovations to that building. We need to do some upkeep to it. We do have little things planned, even for this summer, but it's mainly just maintenance type things. But it's the top of the mountain. Right? It's a beautiful view up there, and it's just that one notch higher. So could I foresee that being better utilized during the summer? Well, of course, and just in the past 3 years, you know, with the mountain weddings that we now have up there, with using it almost on a year-round basis, the Schwindy Fest, all those types of things, it is one of our crown jewels of our community, and it's going to be treated as such.
Tim, am I correct in assuming that the mountain avails itself of a consulting with a meteorologist about long-term climate trends and stuff like that?
So we have a meteorologist named Mally Brook. Oh, sorry. So the question is, have we consulted with meteorologists about the effects of climate change? The answer is we talk about this all the time. We're in the National Forest. It's always a part of the conversation. Part of NSAA, which we're members of, and I just got back from the national show. That's a big portion of the conversation. But mainly here in the state of New Hampshire, we actually have some of the foremost climate change experts in the world are right here in New Hampshire. And with Ski New Hampshire, we have a lot of discussions about it. You know, the effects of climate change, you know, the ups and downs of the weather every year is always something we're managing. And the number one way we make sure that we continue to manage that in the best possible way is to modernize our snowmaking systems, improve our lift systems, make sure that we stay on the forefront of technology that's going to allow us to continue to offer our products for the future. And it's worked really, really well so far, and we're only getting stronger and better, and skier visits are increasing. We have a high altitude too, so that's something to take into account.
Tim, does the new generation of snowmaking equipment allow snow to be made closer to the freezing point?
So the question is does the new type of snowmaking allow snow to be made closer to the freezing point? So I know my wife is going to get really angry at me if I jump all the way into the science of snowmaking. The quick answer.
So am I.
The quick answer is yes. The new technology does harness better technology to allow us to make snow at warmer temperatures. Because of the nucleation process. I won't go any further than that. Go ahead.
What's the ski area's target date for loading this lift and skiing down the new trails in Green Peak?
I think the original target date was like last year.
Yeah, the original target date was right around now. It's hard to put a precise date on it because, as I said before, while this is one step in the EIS process, the EIS process is only one step in the entire process. Once we get to a record of decision and know exactly what we can or cannot build, we'll go into a whole nother round of evaluation of, okay, do we have to change our plans? What changes to facilities might we have to make? So there's a whole nother sequence of design and engineering and planning that goes into that. And frankly, it's hard to say how long that will take. It will take between that and actual permitting and procuring a lift, which is it's not something you walk into Jugtown and buy off the shelf, right? So it will be years after that record of decision is issued, but frankly, I wouldn't hazard a guess it's more specifically than years, because it's a long process. And if we get into permitting with the state for what Tim called the alteration of terrain, that's a kind of permit that could take 6 months or it could take 2 years. And we don't know that until we actually get to the point where we're working with the state's Department of Environmental Services on that. So I don't want to give it a specific target date, but it's not something where the record of decision is going to come and, but in the fall of 27 and in the spring of 28, we're going to have excavators out there. So it will take time.
But Nick, I mean, to your point exactly, you know how ambitious we have been since I've been here. So we are pushing, we are trying. And after 60 years of operating this resort, this is the 60th anniversary of the resort. It's a long time coming. So this is the closest we've ever been, and I think that it's a real accomplishment to get to this
There's
point.
nobody more eager than us to step foot onto one of those gondola cars and ride it up to the top.
All right, any more questions? All right, what we're going to do now is we did open the bar next door. We have a drink for you guys over there and some light hors d'oeuvres if you guys would like to ask us any questions one-on-one.
I just want to make one more comment about, so Tim put up the QR codes about commenting. We meet regularly with the Forest Service, about all kinds of things, including this project. The forest supervisor, he's the decision maker in the meetings with him and his staff. One of the things they emphasize that we encourage you all to do as the public is when you comment, try to be as substantive as possible. It's a perfectly valid to submit a short comment that says, I love this, I hate this, don't let them do this, how soon can they build it? But of more value to them is to say why you like it, what you like about it, what you don't like about it, what you're concerned about. If you look at any of those underlying scientific reports, I'm concerned about the bats, or I'm concerned about, stormwater runoff, or things like that. The more substantive your comments, the more valuable they will find it as they go through their process of making a decision. So we encourage you to make comments, and we encourage you to be as substantive as possible, because that's the best way to have your input be part of the decision-making process.
I think that's a fantastic way to end it. Thank you so much for coming. Hope to see you next door.
Yeah, I know. Good. Excellent presentation. Well, thank you. I hope you get everything you want.